Hello all. So we're all aware that leftist revolutions throughout the grand scope of history often lead to absurd levels of savagery and violence. I mean, the French Revolution and the Reign of Terror is one example. The various communist revolutions where the bourgeoisie was slaughtered in the most bizarre and inhumane fashions in order to reach the perfect land of equality that never really came. Yet personally, I believe there's a more subtle kind of violence that flies beneath the radar in the here and now. We've spoken before about how the mainstream globalist liberal system utilises lots of leftist rhetoric around ideas of multiculturalism and so on to justify the mass immigration and the new worldview of the mass man. Now, the core idea here that we've all heard about many times is that the white Western male carries this sort of original sin of racism. If we look through history, he supposedly created the racial hierarchies of the colonial era, which carry on today in all manner of social and economic disparities. Of course, it's this ideology itself that means anything that leans rightwards in this day and age is automatically seen with suspicion by the eye of Sauron. However, as I say, that ignores a big blind spot, which is this leftism itself, in my view, could be inspiring quite a dangerous level of violence on the street level. I first started thinking about this when I saw the appalling and harrowing murder of Irina Zarutska in America. The black assailant stabbed her in the neck and afterwards reportedly said, "I got that white bitch." Now, the report from the mainstream that this was just a mentally unwell individual, but it stuck with me. Why did he attack only the white person? There was a carriage full of people and he left all of them alone. Now, I think we can all see that the attacker, Carlos Brown, I think his name is clearly a disturbed individual. But when you think about how the endless rhetoric from the liberal mainstream dictates that white people are at the root of all of the problems minorities suffer historically and today, it's they're the reason why they're not getting ahead in life, that can have highly disturbing effects to even stable minds. Yet when you have deeply disturbed people, it might be the thing that tips them over the edge to do something completely insane. Here's another recent case from America. It concerns a Bethany McGee, as I understand, a 26-year-old Christian girl. She was set alight on the Chicago subway. Lawrence Reed poured gasoline over her. He'd previously been arrested 72 times, but was still out on the streets for some reason. And it's made even more sad and tragic by the fact this Bethany McGee girl on social media had all of the BLM pictures, everything you're supposed to have in this day and age to show your virtue in alignment with the liberal regime. It's a cruel twist of irony. This girl's now fighting for her life with 60% of her body burnt. But again, it's a black man targeting white women. There are other instances of this. And the question is, why? Why do they target them? Now, I have to say this because we're living in modern Britain where the jackboot of the liberal regime is very firmly on our necks. I'm not saying that all minorities behave in this way, nor that they would want to, but it's clearly a problem within certain communities, and I'm sure there is violence that goes the other way, but it just doesn't seem to be at the same regularity, brutality, or scale. As I say, I can't help but suspect there is an innate racial animus going on in these cases, as there is presumably in this horrific case from Italy recently. Sex attack horror as young Italian couple are surrounded by 3 migrants, other outlets are saying 5 migrants by the way, who smash into their car and force boyfriend to watch as they rape his 18-year-old fiancée. Now, it goes without saying that any sex attack is horrifying and harrowing, but when the perpetrators force a fiancé to watch, there's a level of sadism, brutality and hatred that we just don't usually hear about. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of this case. One could assume that these immigrants are from a very savage part of the third world where brutality is normalised. But it just seems to me this is added layer of venom. It seems that there's a racial animus to this. Again, I'm not saying this absolutely is the case. I'm not condoning any form of revenge attack or anything of that nature. I'm just saying I'm starting to suspect when you get this rhetoric from the liberal mainstream that the white privileged people are so evil and have ruined your life. At what point in deeply disturbed and savage people does that tip them over the edge and seek vengeance? Now, I know I'm not alone in this concern because you can see the protests of locals across the country as immigrants have bust in to their towns. You get it across the whole of Europe now. People don't want it because they don't know who these people are, and there are clear cases of sexual abuse and even murder to justify their concerns. And the response we get from these liberal types is absurd. It's basically these asylum seekers, quote unquote, are fleeing persecution, and they're all refugees, doctors and nurses. We've heard that from the refugees welcome types and even Green MPs. Yet when you point to examples of people who've actually been murdered, the response always seems to be, yeah, but you had Harold Shipman and Fred West, so who are you to judge? You're just racist. Of course, that totally ignores the problem of scale and regularity, but let's say even if it was of a total equal nature, would it be worth importing 50,000 asylum seekers if one of our people got murdered? I would say no. And let's be honest, if you have 50,000 of them coming in from some of the most brutal and savage places on earth, I'm sure there are some good eggs amongst them, but there's no doubt you're going to get more than one murder, and you're certainly going to get more than one sex attack. I mean, I try to understand the mentality of the people who want to welcome the asylum seekers. I understand their arguments about tolerance and kindness and compassion, but how can you ignore that violence and sexual attacks are a clearly real reality and then state you're the kind and empathetic ones? I think this goes back to the core of leftism itself. I think many people just naively attach to it, thinking it's the kind, heart-centered side of politics, and some people are just midwits and not really interested in politics and don't want to rock the boat, so go with what is socially acceptable. But the people who are really into it very often are displaying this supposed tolerance and kindness, but beneath it there's quite a deep, biting resentment, a sort of inhumanity, and they use leftism and the supposed tolerance and kindness as an avatar for what is really a viciousness. Now, shedding more light on this is US Democrat politician John Fetterman, and he's sort of a trade unionist type more than a wokey, and he points out the level of abuse he gets from the left and the right, and which is worse.
And when I asked my digital team, I said, we're on all the platforms, really what's kind of the harshest, what's kind of the most personal? And the answer was immediate. He said, oh, blue sky, it's blue sky. And the difference is, the right would say really rough things and names, some names I won't repeat on TV, but the on the left, it was like they want me to die, or that we're cheering for your next stroke, or that's terrible that depression won. Why couldn't it depression won? And I hope your kids find you.
This is the classic wokeism we've seen so much of. Once one paints themselves as morally superior to other human beings, it's not so much because they are more tolerant and kind. As I say, it's a vector for some very dark emotions and dark forces which are really at the root of them to take over and feel righteous while they're doing so. This is why we should remember that when they call you a fascist, very much as Zach Polanski is doing at the moment to everybody he doesn't like, it's not so much a narrow, technical, political designation, it's more a target on your back to justify violence against you. Here's an interview from GB News in America with an ex-Antifa member explaining what the mentality of Antifa is like.
They say they're going to kill someone, or they think it's justified to attack someone because they're fascist, for example.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's like whether it's people deserve to die, they have no human rights. It's like calling someone a Nazi or a fascist. It's a way to just dehumanize them. You can do whatever to them. You can assault them. It's funny to them. They laugh about it. They don't kill you because you're a fascist. They call you a fascist so they can kill you.
Now, Antifa are at the extreme end of things, but we see the same implied rhetoric even in more mainstream iterations. On your screen right now is one of these woke cartoons. It shows the Indian-looking family have to strive for everything they get. They have to build it themselves while the white people just throw money at it. Of course, this isn't even accurate with regards to the breakdown of the UK, where Indians are doing very well socio-economically. It tends to be the whites that aren't doing so well, especially the white working class. But this sort of propaganda serves its purpose in continuing the narrative of anti-white animus, as well as even to the white liberals themselves. It makes them think they have a moral authority for acknowledging this by supposedly recognising their own privilege.
No borders! no nations. Stop deportations. No borders, no nations. Stop deportations.
It's a strange and troubled world out there, friends. It seems we're at the end of the cycle of the liberal dream, which probably will die with the boomer. Then the new world will truly be upon us. It's wise to be prepared. As always, these are my thoughts. Do let me know what you think down below. Got the sister channel linked in the description along with the Substack. Do consider subscribing to this channel if you're new.